Hello, everybody. Good morning and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge, and this is your latest Manchester United news as we've got 3 bits of big transfer news for you this morning. I actually did 4 fingers, didn't I? Anyway, it is 4, but 3 we're going to start off with. So we're going to be talking about Marcus Rashford's return to Manchester United, some interesting stuff coming out of Spain. Also, Emilio Martinez was so sure he was joining Manchester United in the summer. He told friends and family. What went wrong there? And also, Amorim snubbing the opportunity to bring Endrick in on loan in January. Is he right? Is he wrong? We'll talk about that. Napoli also in for Mainoo, a little bit around Xerxes as well. So quite a lot to get into this morning. Very excited to have lots to get into. And I hope you are excited to have lots to get into as well. Some of you probably excited about the 4 fingers thing. You're rude. Anyway, I don't know why I'd be thinking about that at 10 o'clock in the morning. Disgusting filth. I'm still buzzing. Absolutely. I said I'd do it. I watched my career mode episode in bed last night, and it was nothing like that, but it was exciting. I think it's one of the best career mode episodes I've ever done. If you've watched it, you're part of the GOAT community. If you haven't, I will drop a link in the description. Right. Let's get into it. Where should we start? Because there's some interesting stories this morning. Let's start with Rashford, I suppose. Amorim transfer snub of Endrick. We'll talk about Martinez. We'll talk about Mainoo. There's a few other bits to talk about this morning as well. I also think the overreaction to the Sesko thing from Gary Neville is ridiculous. Ridiculous. I mean, some of these people making content about it are the same people who were screaming Amorim out after Grimsby. And they're having a pop at Neville saying it's too far to criticise Sesko. He doesn't even bloody criticise him. He's just saying, I think the jury's still out. We need to see more. Bloody idiots these people are, I tell you. Look, I'm all for criticising ex-players when I think they get it wrong, but I really don't think he's got it wrong on that one. I think people are just going over the top because they're hypocrites. Anyway, let's get into the show this morning. We're in topical news show at 10 a.m, 8 o'clock show for that sort of stuff. So basically, it's coming out of Spain. You might have seen it yesterday. It's coming out of Spain that Barcelona do want to sign Marcus Rashford from Manchester United on a permanent deal. However, he has to accept their salary proposal and agree to take a wage cut. The 28-year-old has obviously just turned 28. He scored a few goals for them. He's got a few assists. They're happy with him, but he has to fall into line with their wage criteria and what they value him as. And I think with Rashford, it's really important to remember that he's beholden to Barcelona. It's very different dynamic to what he had at Man United a few years ago, where he was basically the top boy. You know, if he said something, if Rashford said jump, the club said high, how high. We all remember Solskjaer criticising him on the weekend, saying he needs to focus on his football because of all the off-field activities he was doing. The very next press conference, before Solskjaer even took a question, he had to say, I just want to say before we start the press conference, basically, I need to apologise to Marcus. So at United, Rashford was the guy. And when he said jump, United jumped. At Barcelona, he's not. And I think that's good for him. I don't think it's good for a player to be running the club, etc. I think at Barcelona, he has to fall into line because he is not Yamal and he is not Barcelona. So he has to fall into line. And what Barcelona are basically saying is, we do want you, but it's not like if we don't get you, we won't find somebody else. So we want you, but you've got to fall in line. And falling in line means you've got to lower your wage expectations because we're not going to give you the 300 or whatever he's on, 325, 350, 275 grand a week, whatever it is at Man United, we're not going to pay it. So if Rashford wants to continue his Spanish adventure, then he has got to take a pay cut. If he doesn't, he'll find himself back at Manchester United, where who knows? Like some people might be quite happy with that. Who knows what happens with that? But he will find himself back at Manchester United and he'll find himself out of options because nobody is going to pay him that wage, regardless of what he does this season at Barcelona. There'll be nobody that takes that wage and that transfer fee. So I think just do it, Marcus. Come on. I mean, you've recaptured some form. You only live once, and you're not James Bond. You're a footballer, and your job is to play football. And surely you're loving life. You know, you're in Barcelona. You're away from the British press. You're away from the negativity. And I mean, you've probably got enough money, and you'll probably make a lot more money from brand deals because you're playing well. So take the pay cut. And I think he will. I think he will, because I think if he doesn't, he finds himself back in the drama of Manchester United. probably not part of Amorim's plans if Amorim's still here next year, which I think he will be, scratching around for another loan deal, which could be AC Milan, Dortmund or Villa again. So it's an interesting story. We know Barcelona are the ball breakers. We know that Barcelona are a powerful club, and it's probably the best thing for Marcus Rashford. It's certainly the best thing for Manchester United. I think he will take the pay cut, but if he doesn't, and look, stranger things have happened. Who's looking forward to Stranger Things? Actually, I'm looking forward to that. Basically, it's like a final series, but every episode's like a mini film. They're like an hour and a half. Anyway, let's get back to this. Stranger things have happened. Of course, Marcus Rashford could find himself back at Manchester United because he doesn't want to take a pay cut. But just do it, Marcus. Take the pay cut. Continue your Spanish adventure at Barcelona, enjoying life, enjoying football. Everyone's a winner. Everyone's a winner. The second story I wanted to talk about this morning, before we talk about this Amorim transfer snub of Endrick, is Emi Martinez. So, I mean, look, maybe Manchester United will go back in for Emi Martinez, but this is coming in from the Mail this morning. Emilio Martinez, or Emi Martinez, he's actually got another nickname, was reportedly so convinced that he was joining Manchester United this summer that he told friends about the move, only for United to pivot to Le Mans and inform his agents they were no longer pursuing him. Well, look, we all remember that final 48 hours of the transfer window. And if you don't, basically, Man United at times were saying, we're not going for a goalkeeper. We've got Onana and Bienda. And then suddenly everything changed very quickly. We were going for Le Mans. And then on the Sunday, Aston Villa dropped or left out Martinez because Man United were going for Martinez. And then the next morning, we didn't go for Martinez and we went for Le Mans instead. And here we are now. I'm not surprised by that story. I'm not surprised by that at all. I think it's very much the story that happened. And I think that there was a time when we were doing videos in that last 48 hours where I thought we were going for Martinez, and Martinez was my preference. The interesting thing is whether we go back at that. Now, what we do know is that Ruben Amorim actually did want Emi Martinez. He wanted the more experienced goalkeeper, and obviously he didn't get him. So I think that when I look at that story, we've ended up in a good situation. Villa and Martinez, I mean, he's been there for the last couple of years. It's not really a bad situation for him. It's just one of those stories, isn't it? I think we were close. I can't remember why we didn't do the deal. Maybe it was the finance. I don't know. But it was always the story of experienced striker over young goalkeeper. And at the moment, in hindsight, you know, I think we're all very, very happy. I think at the time, I wanted a more experienced goalkeeper, and I think we were moving for him. I mean, you don't leave a player out of a game if you don't think he's going to leave. So, look, the question is not whether that happened, because I think it did. The question is whether we'll go back in there and do that again, or whether we'll leave it as it is and give Le Mans the chance. And as I've said to you before, I think with I think that we have an interesting story here. Somebody just said the Gary Neville stuff is not to do with Sesko; it's to do with De Ligt. Okay, let me look at that. But I'll finish this. I've got the article here in front of me. So we will come on to that in a moment live. I don't know why I've not been informed about that before. So thank you to that person in the chat. Something about an ageing spine. Gary Neville takes an aim at Man United's ageing spine after the club's 3-match winning run comes to an end at the weekend. Okay, well, we'll talk about that next then. I'll shoehorn that in. But in relation to Martinez, as I said to you last night, I think with Le Mans, he's got the season. And whatever happened in those last 48 hours, I would pretty much guess and be guarantee that, like me, and like many of you, if you're being honest, if you have the choice between Le Mans and Emi Martinez on the last day of the transfer window, a lot of people would go with Emi Martinez because he's Premier League proven and you need that aura straight away, and he goes straight into the team. Where we are now, I think a lot of us would go, we're actually okay with what we've got. That's fine. That's evidence in front of you. On the final day of the transfer window, we had no evidence other than Le Mans is a potentially good goalkeeper, and we knew that Emi Martinez was one of the top 5 goalkeepers in the Prem. 2 months later, it's a different story. The question will be whether we go back in for Emi Martinez in the summer. There is talk of us going for an experienced goalkeeper. But as we know, Lemens is in position. He's moved Binder out. He is the goalkeeper at the moment. And I think we will have to wait and see what happens with that. But I wouldn't rule out Man United going for a more experienced goalkeeper in the summer. And I wouldn't say that Lemens' position is definitely, I wouldn't say he's definitely the Manchester United goalkeeper for the next 10 years. And that would be stupid to think that. I think we all hope that's going to happen. But it only takes, I mean, I saw people criticising him after the Forest game. I genuinely think there are football fans out there these days that they want to shine a new toy. So it's a bit like the British media, actually. They love to build somebody up and then they love to knock them down. And I think there are football fans that do that now. They get really, really excited about signing. And then after a few games, they're like, I'm bored of that now. Oh, we could have done better there. Actually, he's shit. We need someone else. So just beware of that. Lemens' position at the moment looks very good, but, you know, it's not necessarily it's not set in stone. Okay, so this is what Gary Neville had said after the draw, which saw United slip from 5th to 8th. I think your spine of a football team is critical. When I first came to Man United, our spine was Schmeichel, Bruce, Pallister, Keane, and Cantona. So we're all scattered around it. We literally were able to be cushioned by this unbelievably strong spine that delivered every week. I think Maguire and De Ligt should be doing better than they are. You know, you look at the experience that those two have got. De Ligt's played a mountains of games at sorts of different levels, the highest level. Harry's played many times for England. You've got midfielders like Casemiro and Bruno who've got massive experience. Up front, they've got the experience. But to me, that spine of Bruno, Casemiro, Maguire and De Ligt is ageing, but should be doing a lot better at holding it all together than they do. That's why I think Liverpool are good, because they've got Alisson, Van Dijk and McAllister and Gravenberch, and they've got obviously the centre forwards. I mean, look, I think again, I mean, I think the context is all, that's the first time I'm reading that, and I don't mind doing that live on a show. And somebody just said it's not about Sesko, it's about what's been said about De Ligt. I think with regards to what Gary Neville is saying there, it's something that I've been saying for a long time. I don't think that I'm old enough to remember the class of '92 coming through, but Neville, Scholes, Giggs, Beckham, and you did have Bruce and Pallister and Keane and Ince and Cantona and Schmeichel, and you were protected by them. And when I look at like Sesko, Dorgu, Ahmad, any other young player, Yoro, Garnacho, over the years, there isn't really an experienced team to help those players. And I think Gary Neville's absolutely right there. I think to call out Casemiro, Bruno, Maguire, Shaw, there are a couple of others. I don't think we provide a great platform. I don't think we provide great leadership. And I would argue this with anybody, because I'll come on to the De Ligt thing in a minute, because I don't agree with that. But when I look at this Man United side over recent years, and I look at Rashford shooting from all over the place, and Anthony shooting from all over the place, and Garnacho shooting from all over the place, and I can see Casemiro and Bruno in the same team, I'm like, why are they not telling them not to do that? Why are they not demanding they don't do that and they be more of a team player? So I do agree with Gary Neville on that. I think that the so-called experience in our team, the senior leadership team, they've been very bad at preventing bad habits in that team. Very bad. Over the last 2 or 3 years, we've been very bad at stopping bad habits and nurturing our young players and moulding them in the way that they should be moulded. So I agree with him completely on that. I actually do. I completely agree. Where I don't believe with him, where I don't agree with him, and this is where some people struggle, is the little intricacies of what's used in a good point. I think he's making a good point, but I do not agree about De Ligt, because De Ligt is not aging. De Ligt is not aging. De Ligt is only into being here for just over 12 months. So you can't throw De Ligt into the same category as Bruno Fernandes, Casemiro and Harry Maguire, who, when you add it up, have got over easily probably nearly 15 years experience at Manchester United, but certainly over 10 years, and they're all over 30. You can't throw De Ligt, who's in his mid-20s and has got just over 12 months experience, into the same argument. So I do agree with him. I don't think our leadership team nurtures and develops talent as well as it should do. But you can't throw De Ligt into there, because Mazraoui's older than De Ligt, so why is he not there? Luke Shaw's older than De Ligt, so why is he not there? So De Ligt cannot be seen as part of our leadership team, because he's not even on the leadership team. He's not on Amorim's leadership team. So I think it's a great point by Gary Neville to talk about our leadership team and its inadequacies. And I'd argue that with anybody, because why do I keep watching Man United over the last couple of years play with indiscipline from younger players when our older players should be nurturing them and telling them what to do? I completely agree with that. But De Ligt's not part of the leadership team. He's not part of Amorim's leadership team, and he's not part of the leadership team anyway, because he's not been here long enough and he's not as old as the rest of them. So throwing De Ligt in there is unfair. And also saying De Ligt needs to do better. De Ligt's our best player this season. Absolutely 100%. So I think this is the brilliance of football conversation and life. Like, there's a very good point there because it's got us talking. There's a problem though. De Ligt should not be involved in that. De Ligt should be swapped out for Shaw and Delo. Maybe that's a mistype. Maybe he was saying Delo because he can't be saying De Ligt. It can't be De Ligt. De Ligt cannot be in there. But in fairness, we did say this a couple of weeks ago. When it comes to De Ligt, for some reason, there is a total and utter UK media issue with De Ligt, and I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, and that's why I'm grateful for communities like this and fan bases like ours, because every Man United fan I talk to loves De Ligt and talks about his consistency and what a great signing he's been and how he can be a leader of the future, and he's one of the top 3 centre-backs in the Premier League at the moment. Fact. But you speak to the UK media or an ex-player and they won't have it. And I don't know why. Maybe, I don't know. I don't get it. But I do agree with him about the leadership team. I do think Casemiro, Bruno, Harry Maguire, Luke Shaw should be doing a better job around running that team, organising that team, controlling that team. But as we know, the captain himself is the most petulant player in that team. So you cannot be captain of Man United and tell people not to shoot and not to do silly things when he's the most indisciplined player on the pitch. So maybe that is the answer as to why it's very different to how we used to develop players. I don't know. But De Ligt, top 3 centre-back in the Premier League. Are you okay, Mark? Tell me 3 better ones. Gabriel, yeah, I'll have that. Saliba, probably. Yeah, I'll have that. I can't think of a third. Don't tell me about Van Dijk. You know, he's living on past habits. Canate, the same. Ruben Diaz, I've never rated him. Van der Ven and Romero, forget about it. Newcastle centre-backs, get lost. Konsa's doing well at Villa. I like that shout. But that's very similar to what De Ligt's doing. And Konsa's older than De Ligt. I like Konsa. I think he's a very good centre-back. I think Gehi's a very good centre-back, but we're all into the same. De Ligt's been brilliant for Man United this season. I've watched every single game. Most of you have watched them with me. De Ligt has been a sensation for Manchester United this season. Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. This season, he's in the top 3 centre-backs in the Premier League. Absolutely. Comfortably. The player ratings would back that up. I bet his average player rating is the highest player rating so far this season, as voted for by you. Okay, let's move on because we've got lots to get into. Right, I want to talk about. I've got to talk about Amorim. Okay, let's talk about this. This is coming in from Fabrizio Romano. So, Manchester United are not interested in bringing Endrick in to Real Madrid from Real Madrid this January. It is a possibility. Manchester United are not going to do it. So the reason they're not going to do it, and Fabrizio Romano confirms this, loan with a buy option has never been a possibility for Endrick in January. So Real Madrid are looking to loan him, but they are not looking to put a buy option in there. So if you loan Endrick from Real Madrid, very talented, exciting, young striker who isn't really getting the game time at Real Madrid, you can loan him, but you can't keep him. So there's no buy option at all. It's loan for 4 months and then he's back to Madrid. Man United, not interested. The only club who's in advanced talks to take him so far is Lyon. And Endrick wants that move because he wants to play and the deal is progressing. So United, who were skirting around that, were looking at that, are basically saying no deal. We're not going to do that. This probably fits in with what Romano said on Sunday night. Amorim wants players for today and tomorrow. Endrick would be a player for today. Now, for me, he will also, what Mr. says, he probably wants guaranteed game time as well. Look, if I'm Endrick and Man United say, look, we'll give you 4 months at Man United, I think he's going to take it. The question is, and we can run a poll on this, would you take Endrick on loan? Would you take Endrick on short-term loan? I mean, for me, it comes down to this. If it's Endrick or nobody, yes, please. Yes. I actually do understand why Ruben Amorim wouldn't want to do it, because he wants to bring players in for the future. But on the other hand, you're using Casemiro and Bruno in the midfield. You know, you're using Harry Maguire at centre-back. They're not going to be here next season. They're not going to be starting for you next season. So why not bring Endrick in for a few months? I would take Endrick over nobody. Yeah, I would take Endrick over nobody, but I can understand why he's a bit like, well, if he comes in, he does really well, the fans really like him, and then he goes back to Madrid. Manchester United can't be that football club. Lyon can be that football club. Maybe Everton can be that football club. But Man United, Liverpool, Arsenal, you can't be that club that takes a Real Madrid player knowing he's going back to Real Madrid. What if he came in and scored 5 goals and everyone was like, he looks really good, and and then he goes back to Real Madrid? So I do understand it. I understand it. I think some people might look at it and go, oh, let's just do it. It's better than nothing. And I do agree with that. But it's a bit like Conor Gallagher, isn't it? Whether you want Conor Gallagher or not, you have to go and get a midfielder like that in January, because we need a midfielder. And whether you take Endrick on loan or not, if we're not going to take Endrick on a loan, then we need to take somebody else, because it's an area of weakness in the attack. If anything happens to Sesko, we don't have a striker. So I understand Amorim's position on it. And it's an interesting one. 54% of you saying no, and 46% of you saying yes. Right, let's have a quick look at some of your comments before I talk about Mainoo. Thanks everybody who's tuning in this morning, by the way. We're very close to 1,000 likes, so please do smash a like on the video and share. Thank you very much. The week's flying by already, isn't it, as well? You know, already nearly Wednesday. We're playing on Saturday lunchtime. Bring it on. Interesting super chat here from Rios23. He says, midfield isn't the issue. Until we get an aggressive defender who can step into the midfield, team will still run through our midfield. 2 can't do it. A little bit niche there, Rios. It's an interesting comment, which is half wrong. If we had 2 midfielders like Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo, we'd be better off than what we've got. So we'd be better if we had two good midfielders. And only then would we know if your point's true. You're trying to ride a bike before you've built it, is what I think. You might be right. 2 midfielders might never work at Man United, but 2 midfielders better than what we've got will improve us. And also, I think we saw against Brighton, Luke Shaw stepping into the midfield, and we'll see it with Martinez if he comes back. But we're never going to step into the midfield if we're bypassing our own midfield anyway. Which is what we did against Forest. As I said, we factually hit long balls more than we did against Liverpool and Brighton. So we're not even looking to utilise our midfield in possession when we've got the ball, which is, you know, a massive sign that we don't, and Amorim doesn't trust it. Sarvish says that's Fraudzelona negotiating tactic, offer very low salary and then say he's not lowering his wage, so United got to sell him cheap if they want to sell. Well, I mean, that's a different topic. I mean, we're talking about Rashford at the start of the show, and if he wants to go to Barcelona, he's going to have to take a pay cut. I would not be surprised if at some point down the line, Man United have to lower their demand, which at 25 million for a 28-year-old is already ridiculously cheap. But I would not be surprised if further down the line we have to lower our value of him so that he can get the wage that he wants. There might be some little game going on there. You know, Rashford's certainly not going to do Man United any favours, is he? Starbucks says, all the best to you and your family. Hope your daughter's on the mend. Yeah, she's meant to be back training today. She missed training yesterday, so she's meant to be back training today. So we'll see how it goes, which is a lot better than last time where it was about 7 weeks out, which is so it's obviously not as bad. Keel Robinson says, at the moment we have half a midfielder. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't want to spend the morning show when there's a lot of news to talk about midfielders. Thank you very much for your super chats. If you've done those, we'll read those out. I don't want to spend time talking about the midfield because we seem to do it all the time. But yeah, it's. I could give you multiple 2 midfielders that I would drop into that team at the weekend, and we'd see a massive. It's going to be a very interesting game on Saturday because I don't know whether Bergvall will be fit. Obviously, he got subbed off with a concussion, so he might not be able to play on Saturday. I've not heard anything about that. I might be able to get you something on it now, but let me just have a quick look. I think he's a very, very good player. Yeah, so Bergvall won't be playing against Man United because of the concussion protocol. I think that's right. I think I'm right in saying that. Thomas Frank confirmed that Bergvall had suffered concussion and would not participate in the next 2 games. Yeah, and obviously they're playing Copenhagen anyway, so that's a big positive for us. But Spurs on paper don't have a bad midfield compared to us. You've got Palhinha, you've got Bentancur, you've got Sarr. So obviously Bergvall won't play. So it'll be an interesting game on Saturday, and how we approach it, because neither of our midfielders want to keep the ball for any period of time, and that's obviously a tactic from Amorim. So there we go. Let's talk about Mainoo. There is a story coming in about Mainoo this morning from Italian reports again. England midfielder Mainoo's January exit from Manchester United is edging closer, with Napoli aggressively pressing for a loan deal for the 20-year-old. So Napoli are pushing very hard for Endrick. Sorry, not for Endrick, for Cobby in the January transfer window. We're not going to move away from this. We're not going to be able to move away from this. It's going to continue. Look, I don't want to see the January transfer window come. It's on the horizon. It's less than 2 months away. And as I said to you a couple of weeks ago, if you think about the summer transfer market, and it basically starts at the start of June, we're in the equivalent of the first week of April. You know, we're getting closer and closer to that January transfer window. Napoli were the closest to getting Mainoo last summer transfer window. He wanted that deal. Nothing will change. Of course, they're going to keep looking at him. So the question is going to be, you know, are Manchester United going to put themselves in a position where they do this deal, or are Manchester United going to avoid it and try and make him stay on the promise of what? What is it they're actually going to promise him? So, look, tell me what's going to happen there. I think that at the moment you've got a club in Napoli in a different league that want to take him on loan and give him first team football, and you've got Manchester United saying no, because what if we get injuries? But we're not going to pick you if we don't get injuries. And I think it becomes a very interesting negotiating point. I think the interesting thing with Mainoo is that this time last year, and for a lot of the summer, there was a lot of talk about his new contract. And when I look at Mainoo, and I need to just double check this now, because it's been a while. When I look at Mainoo's contract situation, slowly, where we go. Okay, what's all this shit? Get rid of you. His contract is up 2027 with the option of another year. I mean, the ridiculous thing about Mainoo's situation is, and I'm not expecting anybody to have any empathy for the modern day footballer, but somebody tell me what Mainoo's wage is at the moment, because it ain't good. It's not a good wage. I mean, I'm getting the number 25k a week. So, you know, if you are, let me just come at this from Capo Dai says letting Cobby go is bad business. Put yourself into Mainoo's shoes for a moment, right? 2 years ago, you break into Manchester United's first team. You're playing holding midfielder against Newcastle at Newcastle, Everton at Goodison Park, and he's on £12.50 an hour, says Moustache. He's on minimum wage. You then are like the big star in English football. People are demanding that you get picked for England. You do get picked for England. Then people are demanding that you go to the Euros. You do go to the Euros. Then people are demanding that you start for England in the Euros. You start for England in the Euros and you end up playing in a Euros final. And you sit there on the beach having a little break and you go, oh my God, I look a year ago, I was going on tour with Man United. I got injured in the first few minutes against Arsenal and I was out injured until November. I thought it was all over. In the space of 6 months, I've made my debut for Man United. I've won a place in the Man United team. I've got in the England team. I've got in the England squad. I've got in the Euros squad. And now I'm in the England team. I'm an established midfielder for Man United and England. And I'm not even 19. The world is my oyster. And that's his first 6 months in, first team football. Here we are today, not in the England team, not in the England squad, not in the Man United team, can't get any minutes, and I'm still earning the same bloody wage I was on then, which is a bloody pittance, a youth player's wage. I want to go. They won't let me. They won't give me a bloody contract. I'm trapped. And you can like Mainoo, you can dislike Mainoo, but you can't argue with that fact. Like, he was up here, he's now down here, and he's earning a shit wage. The wage is a disgrace. Like, it is. But he's sort of got, he's sort of the flip side of the coin sometimes. When you're a young player and you're doing well, you can get, you're riding high and you get a good contract. For him, he's fell off and he didn't get the contract at the time when he was flying high. So I understand his situation. It's not just football time, it's playing, it's wages as well. I mean, look, if I was Mainoo and I'm sat there on the bench every week and I'm watching our midfield, I would be going two things. One, I think I'm better than that midfield. And two, both those midfielders are earning 10 times, 12 times what I earn in a week. Casemiro is on over 300 grand a week and Bruno is on 300 grand a week and I'm on 25 grand a week. They're on more than 10 times a week what I'm on. I mean, it's going to mess with you, that is. So he has got every right to go and knock on the door and say, what the fuck are you doing to my career? Like, what are you doing? You're paying me shit wages. You won't give me minutes. Why am I here? Is it some sort of, are you taking some satisfaction out of doing this to me? Because realistically, my wages are fucking rubbish. You won't give me any minutes. And then you're telling me I can't go. Like, what's really going on here? Because this is beyond bullshit. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, if you valued me, you give me a new contract. If you valued me, you'd give me minutes. You're not doing either of them. So let me go to Napoli, let me play, and let's have a chat in the summer. I don't want to leave, but I want to play, and you won't play me. So I think that is a situation that every time I see a Mainoo story, that's my stance now. I'm like, of course, in the final week of the window, I was like, please don't go, stay and fight for your place. And that's not necessarily gone the way we thought it was going to be. I wouldn't say he's, ripping up trees to be in the Man United side. I would acknowledge that. So therefore, and that's another reason for me, his wage is crap. We're not picking him and he's not playing well. It's 100% the right thing to do to loan him out. And it's about how ambitious the football club is, because if we are ambitious and we are looking to be something ambitious, then realistically, Mainoo is a player that we need to move out to get game time whilst bringing somebody else in who actually improves our squad, which goes back to what I said yesterday. The Conor Gallagher type midfielder in January makes total sense because it allows you to loan Mainoo off to give him minutes at a club that actually values him, whilst we bring somebody in and he goes off and plays somewhere else. And we've seen last season how valuable this can be. The January transfer window is very important in relation to recruitment, but it's also very important in relation to moving players on. If you look at Anthony to Betis, that was brilliant. Like, how that went so well, it was unbelievable. Rashford to Villa actually went well as well. So we mustn't ignore the opportunity of the January transfer window in exits as much as incomings, and the power that can have for us in the summer. Because if Mainoo goes off and does even decently, okay, there'll be a lot of people going, oh, we sat Amorim down. But I'd look at it and go, I don't think Mainoo wants to leave Man United anyway. Let's get him back. So, or if you do end up selling him, his value will go up. And it's the same with Xerxes as well. So I think that we've got to look at that in an intelligent way and say, we can't just keep saying we're not going to let him go. We're not going to let him go. We're not picking him. His money's crap. Let's let him go. If we're not going to use him, let's let him go. I appreciate there's still a number of games before January. There is an AFCON coming up, but I think it's nailed on that we let him go. Would you take Endrick on a short-term loan? 53% of you say yes, 47% of you say no. Remember, this would be a loan with no buy option, which is probably why Man United are avoiding it. UK Darren fan says, I worry for our youth under Amorim. I've seen a few people talk about this, and I think when you look at Mainoo and Dorgu and any other young player at Manchester United, you'd probably have a right to say Amorim's not very good at developing young players. I mean, Garnacho was a young player. He's not here anymore. Mainoo is a young player. He's not here anymore. He's not being picked. So you could say Amorim's development of youth isn't very, very good at all. I don't include Yoro because we spent £50 million on Yoro. He's a generational talent that we signed from somewhere else. But the flip side of that coin is that Amorim has developed youth at Sporting. He certainly has. He's also spoken glowingly about some of our younger players at Manchester United. And you can't be, on the one hand, totally driven by results, and on the other hand, driven by developing young players who will put in inconsistent performances. You can't be chasing consistency and then using inconsistent players. Now, many will argue, well, he's already doing that anyway. Of course he is. Deleu's inconsistent and he's 27. There are others as well. But it was only 3 or 4 weeks ago when he was fighting for his life as Man United manager. And it's only in the last 2 or 3 weeks where people have gone, hey, let's give this guy a chance. So it's very, very difficult to develop young players when you are living through chaos. And he's certainly living through chaos. And as Gary Neville said, I also don't think this is the best team to develop youth in. I don't think we've got a very good track record of developing young players under the stewardship of Harry Maguire, Luke Shaw, Deleu, Bruno Fernandes, and more recently, people like Casemiro. I don't think we do. I don't think those players are developers of young players. I think they're experienced players, but I don't think they're players that develop. I think they're focused on what their own game is. I mean, look, Casemiro has got all the experience in the world. It was only January when he was nowhere near the United side and he had to focus on himself to get back in. Casemiro is probably living an obsession day to day, clinging on to his own career so he can play in the World Cup. I don't think Casemiro's got the time or the aura in the modern game to be able to give any energy to developing other players. I think he's totally focused on his own game, which is quite right because he was nowhere near the team a few months ago. Same for Harry Maguire. I think he's at the end of his career focused on his own game. Luke Shaw is probably just totally focused on fitness. You know, ain't got time to be on the pitch helping others. Bruno Fernandes probably could do it, but he's Mr. Here, there and everywhere. He ain't got time either. So I don't know that we've even got enough players in our team to put their arm around younger players anyway. So I don't think it's fair to say that Amorim doesn't develop young players because I don't think he's in a situation to be able to do it at the moment anyway. Mr. Miracle says, we're at risk of letting Cobby go for free. His contract ends in 2027. We need to let him go in the summer if Amorim doesn't plan to use him. We do have the option of another year. We can basically keep him here till 2028. But as I say, something's got to happen with that soon because it's very, very unfair to keep a player that we're not using on such a rubbish wage. I think we've got to find a solution with Mainoo. I don't know and haven't heard anything from anyone around the Mainoo situation for about 2 months. What I know in the summer is that there was a lot of frustration because they got a lot of flack for saying that he wanted to leave and go on loan. But for the previous 8 months, Man United had been leaking it out that they would sell him. If you remember, it was it Ornstein or The Athletic started it in the first week of January saying that Man United would listen to offers for everybody, including Garnacho and Mainoo. And at that time, hardly any of us wanted Garnacho to go either. So we were like, Ineos are a bunch of frauds. They're just selling our assets. Mainoo's camp were always like, we don't even know where this is coming from. Like, you know, why is Mainoo being mentioned as a sale? And that went on for 7 months. And then the final week of the window, Mainoo's camp obviously put it out there that they were looking to get a loan deal so he could play, and they were suddenly the villain. Yet the club had been happy for it to be out there for 7 months that they were looking to cash in. So I think there's been a bit of frustration around the wage, certainly. And I think there's been a bit of frustration about the noise that's been going on for 8 months. Adding to that, the frustration that he's not part of Amorim's plans. I mean, and I think that Mainoo's camp have probably acted very, very professionally. I think there's other players that we think might have acted very differently. I mean, you're getting no love from the manager, you're getting no love from the club, and yet you're constantly getting this whole get your head down and work hard. You know, it's a difficult position for him to be in. The fact, most Man United fans of Mainoo, it's like, get your head down if you love the club and work hard, which he probably has done, and it's not done him any favours for a contract or first team. So I think it's, I think they're probably just hoping to get to January and get out, really. Not long term. That's never been the angle, but I think they are looking to get out and try and build something somewhere else in a different environment. And to be fair, as I've said to you many times before, I've never ever been convinced or seen any evidence that Amorim actually does rate Mainoo. Like, he's never really picked him. And you can say what you want about this season, but last season was the worst Man United midfield I've ever seen, and he wouldn't pick Mainoo. So I don't think he's part of his plans. Great show this morning. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Please do smash a like on the video as well. Remember, the 8 o'clock show tonight is 7 o'clock because we've got brilliant Champions League games tonight. Real Madrid going to Anfield and PSG against Bayern, the two best teams in the world at the moment. If Mainoo really wants it, he would. Well, see, here we go. Nick P is a prime example. I love this from Nick. It's exactly what a lot of you think. If Mainoo really wants it, he would try harder and take every moment. It's like a relationship. Your other half knows when your heart's not in it anymore. Yes, and I think your opinion, Nick, is the popularist opinion. I would agree with that. But also from a football point of view, I think football is full of evidence that you've got a better chance of success if you actually are given a run in the team. Mainoo's never been given a run in the team. You know, Bruno and Delot, every week you start. I mean, look at Delot in the last 4 games. He's been shit in all of them. Still starts next week because the team won. He was shit. So Amorim is willing to keep picking players that he likes, whether they're shit or not, because he likes them. Mainoo, 15 minutes here, wasn't good enough. You're not playing again. So whilst I agree with you, Nick, Mainoo needs to do better with the minutes he's getting. He's not been given a run in the team. It's very difficult to drop into a team for 20 minutes or half a game knowing that you won't play the next one. You feel a lot better if the manager's like, you're part of my plans, I'm going to give you 3 or 4 games, just go out there and express yourself. And it's even more difficult when you're watching other players play shit every week and they still get picked and you don't. And what that comes down to is what I just said. Mainoo can work as hard as he likes. My opinion is he's not part of Amorim's plans anyway. I don't think Amorim rates him. Compare that to Belabor, 12k a week and demanding 100 million to let him go, earn a better wage. Your morale to put in extra work will definitely take a hit, says he is boss. Samuel says Mainoo just needs minutes. He's already proved himself the season we won the cup. We'll regret selling him just like we did selling young players to Juve. And this is where I sort of jump in and say, I just do not understand the Mainoo dissatisfaction, because it's not potential. There is actual evidence of what he can do. And of course, you could look at how he played for England a couple of years ago and go, well, it's international football, it's slow. Okay. But you look at what he was doing for Manchester United, his breakthrough season was when we won the FA Cup. His breakthrough season was in a midfield that was pretty shit. He's, you know, you think about the goal against Wolves. You think about the performances throughout that season. It's there. We're not seeing it at the moment, but it's there. He's 20 years of age. I personally think he's had the biggest kick in the nuts to his confidence. He's a young player who had an amazing start at 18 and at 20 has basically had the rug pulled from under him. And he's like, you know, you've got to go back to square one. And that mentally is difficult. And I think his confidence has taken a huge boost. And somebody at Man United needs to step in actually and go, whether he's part of our future or not, he is an asset. We need to maximise this asset. And then the best way to do that is to get him out playing somewhere else. Then we need to go and do it. We did it with Anthony. We did it with Rashford. Why are we not doing it? And someone needs to step in, I think. There are lots of thoughts on the midfield players we want, but the question has to be, what's the profile of players Amorim wants in the midfield, says Neville. Tom Harvey says, I've just got out of knee surgery, staying overnight at the hospital. Thanks to you and the community for everything you do. Well, plenty for you to check out the career mode, mate. That'll keep you happy. And rest up, pal. Seth says, the difference between Endrick and Gallagher is we need two midfielders, even if Gallagher do well. I don't mind him going back. He's short-term fix that won't work for long. Thank you very much to Seth. Baffling how you go at Casemiro every day, but ignore the 60 million flop who was meant to actually bench him. Thank God for Beth, Mods, and the others, says Hasa. Oh, why is that? Because I have an opinion that you don't like. Welcome to the planet Earth, mate. Not everyone's going to kiss your ass and tell you you're great. Life's not fair. Sometimes people have different opinions to you. Casemiro's on 350 grand a week. He can't run. He's a stopgap, and he'll be gone in the summer. Deal with it. I didn't say he was bad. I thought he played well. I mean, somebody put him in Premier League Team of the Week this season, this week. I don't think he played well this week. He scored a goal. I don't think he played well. I really don't. I see people doing compilation clips because they're fucking in love with Casemiro from Real Madrid. Casemiro at Man United's bang average apart from his first season. But to put him in Premier League Team of the Week, and the hilarious thing was Anderson wasn't in it, is hilarious because Anderson absolutely devoured Casemiro and Bruno. He mugged them off multiple times and was the best player on the pitch. But yeah, let's put Casemiro in the Premier League Team of the Week. If Ruman doesn't rate him, he should give him a run and show everyone why he doesn't like him. I'll be fuming if we sell him knowing how good he is, says Callum. We've been unable to get maximum value for Rashford and Anthony due to high wage. Will keeping Mainoo's wage low mean we can get more for him, says Stezzy? Yeah, well, he ain't getting a new contract at the moment, is he? Absolutely not getting a contract at the moment. Great comments there. Always like them. Always like a bit of a debate. Thank you very much. Look, at the moment, Casemiro and Bruno should be starting over Agate and Mainoo. I said that a couple of days ago. I actually agree with the team that Amorim is picking, even though I don't think it's that good. I think he's right. Thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe. Back at 2, back at 7. Don't forget to check out the career mode. You'll love it. I'll speak to you in a bit. Thanks for watching. I need a shave.